Hello girls! Thank you for clicking on this video today. Today we are going to follow up on our story of Moses. So we know that Moses led God's children out of the land of Egypt, out of bondage. They were slaves there. And as they were escaping, they came to the Red Sea. I know you knew it. And they freaked out because they thought, how are you supposed to get across the sea? Pharaoh's army's coming behind us. Moses stretched out his rod like God told him to. The waters parted and they walked across on dry land. Now they have just walked through the Red Sea. You would think they would have no problems trusting God and trusting Moses to lead them, but they have a hard time learning a lesson, just like us sometimes. So we are in Exodus. We're going to be talking about chapters 19 and 20. So God led the Israelites out of Egypt. The Israelites camped at Mount Sinai. Moses went up to the mountain to listen to God. God said, "You saw that I rescued you from the Egyptians. If you will listen and keep my covenant," that's a promise, "you will be my special people, my holy nation." Moses went back to the people and shared what God had said. The people agreed to obey God and keep his covenant. God told Moses to get ready. God was going to speak to Moses and the Israelites would hear it this time. So God had been speaking to Moses and only Moses could hear it. But this time, God could look down on his people and he saw that some of them were doubting. And they started thinking, well, what if Moses is just making this stuff up? So God said, tell the people to get themselves ready. They had to go through a process of purifying themselves. Aren't you so glad that now when we want to talk to God, we don't have to do all that? We can talk to him. Hey, sometimes when we're at the barn, we're so filthy and nasty, but we can still talk to him. We don't have to go through a whole process. And that is awesome, but it's not always been that way. Before Jesus, life was much different. So they went through a process of purifying themselves, and God was going to speak so that they could hear and they would trust that Moses was telling them the truth. And God gave them some commandments, and I bet you can name one or two of them, maybe all of them. But I'm going to read them off to us. So this is in chapter 20 of Exodus, and it starts in verse 3 with the commandments. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. That's easy enough to obey. Don't obey any other God except him. If you're going to be a follower of Jesus and a child of God, we cannot worship any other gods. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above or in the earth beneath or that is in the water under the earth. So they're not supposed to make any images, like any statues. Remember that one for next week. Sheesh. Verse number 7 has the next one. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. So I'm sure you've heard people taking God's name in vain and taking the Lord's name in vain. And not only do I think it's so ugly, it sounds so ugly, but the Bible and God commanded them not to do that. When we use God's name, we should use it in a holy way. Verse number 8 says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Verse number 12, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Verse number 13, thou shalt not kill. Another pretty easy one. Verse 14, thou shalt not commit adultery. That means I cannot go out and have another boyfriend when I'm married to Preacher Lee, and he can't go find him a girlfriend. So when you're married, you only stay married to that person and don't go finding nobody else. Thou shalt not steal. Again, pretty easy to follow. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. That means don't lie about your neighbor. If I say, oh, Sally Ann, she broke that. Yep, it wasn't me. That's bearing false witness. Verse 17 has our last one. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. And it goes on and tell all these other things that you shouldn't covet of your neighbors. And what does covet mean? It means to be jealous. And that's something difficult to do because all of us can get jealous from time to time. But when the Bible talks about don't be jealous of your neighbor, it doesn't just mean literally your neighbor who lives next door. It means anybody. And that is hard, especially if you guys watch YouTube or TikTok or anything like that, and you see like the LeBrant family, and they're in this mansion and all these things, or JoJo Siwa, and she's got all those Teslas and stuff. It's easy to be jealous or to covet, but the Bible commands us not to. So some of these commandments are really easy to follow, and some are a little more difficult to follow. No matter what, they are commandments from God. Now let's look at our verse for today. It's in chapter 19 of Exodus, and it's verse 5. Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me, and above all people, for all the earth is mine. So all the earth is his, but we, us, just humans, we can be his treasure if we obey and keep his commandments. I love you, girls. Let's do our best this week to live how we should, and I'll see you next time. Bye.